Hi YouTube. You could consider this the prescript to my postscript. The video that follows is one I recorded earlier today, and I could re-record the video, but I actually liked the way a couple of the concepts came across, and I'm not sure I could pull it off on another take. So there were a couple of things, however, that I didn't make as clear as I should have, and what I thought I would do is just make this video at the beginning, clarify a couple of things, and then we'll launch into the video. So the first thing is, I did mention in the video the hijacking of ethics, and then I went right to Matthew 4:19's description of God, that everything he does is just because of the fact that he's God, there's no unfairness in him, no unjustness in him, etc. And by that I didn't mean to say that Matthew 4:19 is hijacking ethics, but rather that that's what I believe is the origin of the doctrine, that it was a means of controlling the masses by declaring a moral authority over them. And this is something obviously that's been done many times in history by different leaders and groups. I can think of one particular German politician who did it quite famously at one point in time. So I hope that's made clear. The second thing that dawned on me while I was watching the video to sort of edit it for final release is that if someone was coming across my channel or even that video and didn't really understand my position and hears me saying all these things about God, it might be important for them to understand that I don't believe God exists. I am an atheist for that purpose. So when you hear me railing against the things that God says or does, I'm critiquing the concept. So I hope that's clear as well. And the final thing I wanted to say is that in the video I challenge people to investigate their doctrines, and I definitely mean to do that critically, to subject your belief system to a critical analysis, to take its concepts and run them through to their logical conclusions to see if they make sense. And of course, any doctrine that's based in fact should weather that storm quite well and may in fact bolster your faith. But I would also hope that the people watching this want to believe things that are true and wouldn't want to waste one moment believing things that are false. And I would, of course, caution anyone to be very skeptical of any belief system that warns them against subjecting it to that kind of critical analysis. That's never a good sign. With that said, let's launch into the video.
Hi YouTube. With regards to my last video, sovereign decree or morality, you can have one but not both. You could consider this a postscript or an addendum or life source bit. No, it's in dog food, isn't it? Anyway, I just wanted to wrap up the reason why I'm so impassioned about topics like this. And towards the end of the Bible Thumping Wingnuts video on Monica Cora, he makes a big revelation. He lets the cat out of the bag that when atheists come up with all these strange scenarios where rape might possibly be okay, he says, guess what? It's still immoral. If in these weird scenarios you've just been forced to do an immoral act, it's still wrong. And I would actually agree with him. The problem is I don't think he agrees with him. And that was sort of the point that I was trying to make in the video. But when it comes to this sort of sovereign will and decree, there have been instances, obviously, in Scripture where people have been forced to do or asked to do or commanded to do immoral acts in the name of God. And so, yeah, Tim, it's absolutely immoral, even if God commands it. He can't command one thing and say, these things are off the table, and I'm going to need you to go do those things, okay? And this is the danger of hijacking ethics. And I think that, if you look throughout human history, the greatest human catastrophes have taken place when some authority figure hijacks ethics. And so when I hear Matthew 4:19 talking about whatever God does is just by definition because he's God, there's no injustice in him, there's no unjustness in him, that's exactly what I would expect to hear from someone hijacking ethics. A claim to absolute authority, a claim to special knowledge. The rest of you peons just mind your P's and Q's because the authority figure has spoken. I have special knowledge. Who are you to ask the potter? Right? That's exactly what I would expect. It's a clear and present danger. It's a signal. It's a sign that someone is about to ask you to do things that are not in your best interest or someone else's best interest. They're hijacking ethics. And I do think that it's really, really important, presuppositionalist or no, that you investigate your own doctrine and run these things to their logical conclusions. Right? If you run your doctrine to its logical conclusion as a Calvinist, you can't say that any specific rape was wrong. Because that clearly was God's intention that that take place. Right from Adam and Eve, taking from the tree. And I've heard it said, you know, that Calvinist God is a tyrant and the Arminian God is impotent. And I think that's right. And I think you need to ask yourself the question. You're talking about there's no injustice, no unjustness in him. How do you create beings with a specific purpose and then pour out your cup of wrath on them for performing their duties exactly as you had planned? That's ridiculous. You haven't worked your theology to its logical conclusion. Now, I don't say any of these things, getting back to this whole discussion of everybody being offended, I don't say any of these things to offend you personally. These are ideas. And as Bob DeBitz put it, some of these ideas are repugnant and actually cause real harm in society. And that's why I get impassioned about them. You hurt people with talk like that. When you hijack ethics, you inevitably hurt somebody. So, it's really, really important for you to look in the mirror, set your presuppositionalism aside for just a moment, and just make sure that it makes sense. And I know you can't do that. I know I'm talking into the wind, but I'm hoping that someone out there hears me when I make this plea that maybe isn't quite so far down the drain, and sort of looks at it and says, hey, well, that actually doesn't make sense. Maybe I should look at this a little further. Maybe I should make sure this makes sense internally. I can't remember if it was Matthew 4:19 or Bible Thumping Wingnut, but in one of those videos said, you know, listen to your conscience. Yeah, maybe do that, you know. Maybe listen to your conscience. Maybe let rationality and logic be your presupposition. There's an idea. And so I don't mean any of this personally. If you take offense, then, you know, ideas are on the table, right? People are not. There's nothing I can do to you as an individual. So that's not all I have to say on that, but I am going to get back to work. Thanks everybody very much for watching.